Hello, guys. Welcome back to Average Joe Rants, where we have an opinion about anything and everything. So, I'm going to talk about something today that is, I wouldn't say near and dear to my heart, but is definitely, I think, required to uphold integrity in our elections because, unfortunately, there are some people and some states that are bypassing or straight up illegally giving people IDs in order to be able to vote. Now, for those of you who don't know, our current voting laws, or as such, you are required to have, in some states, you're required to have at least two forms of identification when you go to register as a voter. In some states, it is one. And this is so, and this is basically to prevent illegal immigrants from being able to vote in elections and put forth people that could be considered problematic, like Ilhan Omar. Now you might think, well, there's no way in hell anybody would give IDs to illegal immigrants, right? Unfortunately, states have, and it has already killed people. In California, there was at least two separate instances of an illegal immigrant crashing their truck. I'm not talking about like a pickup truck. I'm talking about a big ass truck that transports shit. You know, big ass fucking mother truckers. And in Minnesota, it was revealed that illegal immigrants were able to get driver's licenses in order to be able to vote in elections, despite the fact that they have no other real identification. Because they don't really have any social security number because they're illegal. They don't have a date of birth here, a birth certificate because they weren't born here. So I'm not completely familiar with how Minnesota decided to give people driver's licenses. From what I can understand, they made a law because they wanted more people on the in cars or whatever. So they made it so that illegal immigrants would be able to get driver's licenses, so that they would be able to work. The problem is Minnesota also has a one identification voter registration. So as soon as these legal immigrants got their driver's licenses, they were able to register as voters, despite the fact that they are not technically U.S. citizens. As you might guess, I'm completely against this because to me, Americans, no matter what skin color they are, no matter who they are, should be allowed to vote in our elections without a bunch of people who aren't born here, who aren't U.S. citizens, putting forth their own agenda and putting in the people they want. And as it's become increasingly clear to me, it seems like Democrats, that seems to be the only way they can keep in power. Because on several occasions, there has been just like on one occasion they tried to bring up the voter ID called the Save Act in 2024, and every single time the Democrats have essentially struck it down. There's a thing to have stricter voter laws in our states that would essentially stop voter fraud. Every Democrat essentially voted against it, making sure it couldn't pass the House or the Senate. We've seen several Democrats say shit like they don't work for the United States, they work for other people or other countries. So it really does seem like the only way Democrats can actually hold on to power is if they game the system and have a bunch of illegal voters vote for them. So what the SAVE Act does, now let's get on to that. What the SAVE Act does is it essentially creates another form of identification that requires identification in order to get it. And from what I can tell, it's going to require you to prove you were born in this country as well. Now, here's the thing. Democrats will tell you this is going to block millions of Americans from voting. This is going to be bad for a lot of citizens. Here's my take on it. Here's my take on it. Anybody who's a U.S. citizen, as far as I've seen, from Democrats to Republicans to anywhere in the middle, they're in support of this bill. They're in support of it. Like, they want stricter voter ID requirements because they want to have integrity in these elections now. It's like, when you look at like someone like Nick Shirley, he goes to these places, there's like 30 people slated to vote in this one post office. And it's like, why is there 30 people? And here's the thing, to vote, you also need to provide an address because they need to send you the fucking thing, right? Why are 30 people registered to vote in this one post office? It has to be a residential address. So that's kind of the shit I'm talking about with the voter fraud. So the SAVE Act would basically make it so that you'd have a separate piece of documentation along with the two or one other form of ID that would essentially prove that you are a U.S. citizen. Yes, you are a registered voter. Yes, you can vote in this election cycle. Yada, yada, yada. The thing is with the SAVE Act is there really isn't any downsides. As far as I've been able to... It definitely fucks over illegal voting, but that's not really a downside now, is it? But here's the thing. Every news media outlet, except for like a few, has stated that this fucks over Americans. If you're able to prove you were born here, you really shouldn't give a shit now, should you? Why the fuck do you care if somebody else doesn't have their shit? Doesn't that mean they're illegally here? They're not able to prove they were born here? Or rather, they're not able to prove a timeline that they've been here legally? Wouldn't that make them an illegal immigrant? Or if not an immigrant, then at least illegal. And that's the thing. It's like, this is the reason why I say, like, the only way Democrats can keep in power is with this illegal voting, is because there's so many people I've talked to, I've read about, I've, seen on the news. You talk about how, like, these businesses have a lot of illegal workers, and they all vote. Why are they voting? They're not U.S. citizens if they're... Right? So it's like... And again, it's like in Minneapolis, they had that thing where illegal immigrants and people who were not born in this country could get driver's licenses. Why? It's ridiculous. So, yeah, the SAVE Act would require another form of documentation. I can tell you this right now, I have no problem with that. I know where I was born, I know where I've been in my life, I know where my ID is, I know where I went to school at several schools. Like, motherfucker, if they need me to trace my fucking life through, I have all the documentation I need to prove to them I have lived here, I'm an American citizen. If you're not like me, where at the very least you have a birth certificate or whatever, why the fuck do you have you have a problem then because you're not legally supposed to be here. But if you are like me and you do have that documentation and you do have that shit, why do you have a problem with it? Because the only other reason I could think of is this people are fucking lazy. That's another thing with like the mail-in voting as well. It's like I get it's kind of stupid that Trump's blaming mail-in voting, but there probably wouldn't be so much of it if we just like. Oh God, sorry, my thoughts are like a swirl right now. Give me a second. Mail-in voting was done to essentially make it easier for people to be able to vote, right? But going back to the Nick Shirley thing, you have 30 people registered to vote in a post office. They're not supposed to be registered voters in the post office at all. It's supposed to be residential addresses. So, let's say that post office has an apartment up above, maybe, right? Let's be generous here. That means there's 29 people registered to vote in that post office that don't fucking live there. And therefore, their registration should be null and void. I'm not saying get rid of mail-in voting, because I do know it helps folks, especially elderly folks. But if you're going to keep it, you need to fucking be stricter about it. That's what the SAVE Act is going to basically do. Okay? It's going to make stricter requirements for mail-in voting. It's going to make It's going to make new documentation for in-person voting. And it's going to essentially... I'm not going to go so far as to say save America, because... feels like the only thing that could save America at this point is a bunch of bullets. But that's just my fucking opinion on where it's going. Because I feel like I feel like diplomacy has basically failed at this fucking point. But that's just my opinion. I hope it doesn't come to that, obviously. But it feels like it's going there. But anyway, last thing to say before I finish up this video. Honestly, if you're a true American, you need to stop. You need to stop fucking listening to people like the news. You need to stop listening to politicians. You need to start... Here's my thing, right? Why I decided to make this channel. I want people to think for themselves. I see so many people hate Trump for no real reason. And it's okay to hate the fucker. I'm not saying that. But the hate I see from people, it's like personal. Like he personally like raped them or some fucking shit. It's crazy. It's like a generational hate. But they hate one guy. It's nuts. So one of the reasons why I made this channel is to think for yourselves. I'm coming to these conclusions not because somebody told me to, but because I've looked at all the facts, I've looked at all the stuff, and I'm like, yeah, pass the SAVE Act. Because I do want more integrity in my country's elections. Hell, do it across the world. Create like a version of the SAVE Act across the world so we don't have someone like fucking Vladimir Putin voted in as the leader for fucking 10th year in a row. Just fucking pass it. Have more integrity in our elections. And honestly, stop fucking listening to the news, influencers, politicians. Make your own fucking judgments. Do your own research. don't just look at specific shit because you don't want to look like if like something praising Trump. Don't just you know don't just like what the fuck do they call that? Don't just fucking walk that off or whatever. Read that thing praising Trump, see how exactly how biased it is, and if it's extremely biased towards liking Trump, then put that in your mind like, okay, this news media really likes Trump. I'm going to store that in my brain and say, I'm not going to listen to this news media. If you see a news article praising Democrats and nothing but, say that's too biased for me. Think for yourselves. Don't listen to anything that somebody says that seems extremist or biased. Don't just say something like, I want Sharia law to be throughout the country because you heard it's, the new cool thing from Democrats. Don't. Think for yourself. Do your research. Don't just agree to something to agree with it. And if that makes you unpopular, makes you unpopular. Okay? Be your own fucking person. You don't need to impress anybody. I don't need to impress anybody. Okay? Anyway. That's all I wanted to get out as the last thing to say about this video. If you guys like the video, like, comment, subscribe. I have a YouTube and I have a Rumble. Both have the heading of Average Joe Rants, so it should be pretty easy to find. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, day or night, whenever it is when you're watching this. And I'll see you guys for the next one. Hope you guys have a really great day, really great time, and I'll see you. I guess I'm repeating myself. I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.